Many blessings, my loves. My name is Rebecca, and this is my new moon report for Pillars of the Moon. So, welcome, welcome, everyone. Seasons and Yuletide blessings for you all, for those of you in the Northern Hemisphere, and yeah, summer solstice blessings for those of you in the South. We've now crossed over that changeover point, and yeah, so yeah, I hope you've all had a wonderful celebration, however you celebrate it this time of year. Um, yeah, and I didn't manage to get back for the full moon report last month. I can't even remember what was happening now. It was just around the time of like lots happening, I think, because yeah, my Saturn is around the galactic center, so I find when I get to that time of the year that I have lots of work because the sun is activating my Saturn. So, and Uranus as well is also there for me. So it's quite an activated time for me. And yeah, so it's really good to be back today and journey into the next lunar tide with you all. It definitely looks like quite an intense cycle ahead. Lots of change, expansion, maybe like shifts in power. We've also got a pole shift as well, which is not so much astronomy, I guess, but it's affecting us, and so I was reading about it just this morning. The magnetic pole of the Earth has now shifted over towards Siberia, and it's good to look into that, because yeah, if you was to go north on a GPS map on the old map, it would take you quite far off where you're meant to be going. So the magnetic north has shifted, and the GPSs and the navigation people who do all of that are upgrading their maps and their technology at the moment to upgrade to the new north. And I feel like that is like part of this whole cycle as well. There's no coincidence that I just was researching into that this morning. And I think this is really the energy of Sagittarius. It's the explorer, right? The visionary and finding our direction, so the direction is changing. The shift, the pole has shifted, and we're having to upgrade our navigation devices. I mean, how interesting is all of that? It's just like as we're just dropping into the dark of this moon and we're really tuning into that, and what that means for this next lunar tide ahead for us. Um, I do feel like there is a shift in consciousness around um, Santa and Christmas, and my social media news feeds were full of all of this Siberian shamans and how they're connected to the mushrooms, the red and white mushrooms, and how all of the Santa stuff comes from there. And a few years ago, I was reading about all of this and was like, wow, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But now, like a few years later, it's really like coming up into the mainstream. And I feel like there is a connection to the pole shifting to Siberia to bring a shifting consciousness around the origins of Santa and the North Pole, and it's so connected, all of it. So I just wanted to drop that in as the beginning little nugget of inspiration for this report, as I'm going to share a screen with you all now to look at the overview. So we have our new moon coming up in Sagittarius on the 30th of December, and that's at 22:26 GMT time zone. And then we have our first quarter moon in Pisces on the 6th of the 1st, at 23:56. That will be joined with Chiron and dwarf planet Eris. So, yeah, I mean, that's Chiron's another centaur, right? So the Sagittarian archetype is the centaur, and Chiron is the centaur. So we've got the first quarter moon with Chiron, the new moon in Sagittarius, centaur and centaur, and then our full moon in Gemini, which is also known as the wolf moon. And that's at 22:26 in the evening. So it feels like a lot coming through around like the polarities of things, and like finding a new perspective, shifting our consciousness and yeah, looking at the polarities and like the ways that we separate, the ways that we categorize, the differences in things, and I feel like, with all of the energies with this full moon, it's going to be a lot of like disputes and potential conflicts coming up with this kind of energy of polarities being revealed. The sun will move into Capricorn on the 19th of January, and then the last quarter moon will be in Virgo on the 21st of January at 2030. So that's the overview of the cycle. And yes, not going to share much more about that because let's jump into the live sky. So this is just Stellarium Web, and I use astronomy for my astrology, as most of you probably know if you're following my channel. Um, and that is basically just, it's the live sky as it really is. And yeah, obviously different to mainstream astrology, which is out of sync to the live sky. I'm actually going to go back to today. I'm just going to put it back to real time so we can see what's happening right now as I'm speaking. So today is the 28th when I'm recording this video. And yeah, so the moon, as I'm talking right now, is coming up to Antares today, royal star of the West. Mercury obviously has completed its retrograde and is moving back over the galactic center during this cycle, still having this opposition with Jupiter and squaring to Saturn. So that's going to be a big kind of energy this cycle that's going to be bringing some tests and challenges. The sun has crossed the galactic center now, and as we can see, is in the stars of Sagittarius, the Archer. We'll talk a little bit more about that. So, yeah, like I was sharing about the Siberian shamans and the mushrooms, and I feel like the energy of Scorpio, where the sun has been, and Ophiuchus is kind of like death and rebirth energy. And the sun goes over the galactic center, and then it moves into a new phase in the Sagittarian realms. And it feels like, for me at least, there's an energy of exploring our soul, exploring our consciousness, visioning on this quest for direction, navigating, the parts of ourselves that may be, you know, hidden, the parts of us that are in polarity and in dispute inside, So I feel like with all that will be going on the world stage this cycle, like my intuition and my guidance is to go within and really connect to the voyage, of Sagittarius, like the quest. It's like the vision quest. And, if we were with the Siberian shamans, taking the mushrooms and going off on these cosmic quests, what's the reason that somebody goes on a vision quest? What's the reason somebody has a rites of passage? It's because we are changing. We know that things need to shift. Our pole has shifted. There's a lot of shifts happening, just with this cycle, but then going into next year as well, there's a lot of changes coming for us collectively, so it's really important, I feel, to have this time of going within, to get clear about our direction, because we can keep repeating these cycles of our life. We might just be in the same job for year after year, like keep going like a hamster on a wheel, right? But after we've had the death of the scorpion and the ending of that cycle, and then there's an awakening of the Kundalini with the Ophiuchian energy, a healing of the wounds, a healing of that which was broken, finding the medicine in that, and then finding like an awakening of that Kundalini energy, that life force that might have been broken. It's kind of awakening that energy. And then we're coming up into this Sagittarian archetype where anything is possible. Sagittarius is connected to Jupiter in rulership. So Jupiter, brings abundance, growth, expansion, like so much around philosophy and what we believe and like the deeper meaning in things. So when we are journeying, when the sun is journeying, our beautiful sun star is journeying through the stars of Sagittarius, there's an opportunity to grow, to expand through this voyage of self, to really to tune in, what is my truth? What is my direction? And then, when you look at the arrow of Sagittarius, we know it's pointing at the galactic center here. So there's like also an energy of directing our energy back to our own center, the core of our being. When, we go through the Scorpio and Ophiuchus gateway, it's about breaking down the old apple, the old flesh of the old cycles are breaking down, and the apple is being eaten by the earth. And then at the core of it, at the center, is the seed. And this is where the Sagittarian energy comes in, because it's like once we know what our seeds are, what our intentions are in the core of ourselves, then we can find what we're moving forward with. If we don't do that, we just keep on moving through this kind of like blindness in a way and repeating old cycles that can be quite troublesome, that maybe aren't serving, what we're meant to be doing in this world. So for those of us who are in the Northern Hemisphere right now, this is a time of winter. We're in the solstice is the middle of the winter. So we've still got another 6 weeks until Imbolc, until the stirrings of spring. So the winter, like if you imagine that the sun is reborn, just like Jesus at the solstice, there's like an energy of birthing something new. And then January feels like the energy after this birth feels like a postpartum period. It's like we know what's being born through us, or we're finding that what's being born to us, and this energy between the winter solstice and Imbolc is a time of tending to that new baby, that new life, that new idea, that new vision, that new quest. And it's a very gentle and tender time. So if we're rushing around doing all of the things that we usually do, we might get knocked on our head. We might get flu, we might get a terrible illness or whatever it is to make us stop. Last January, I took some time out, and I found during the first few weeks of January, I got so sick. I had such a high fever. I couldn't do anything, and I had to just surrender to stillness, to stopping, to like reconnecting to my center, to my direction. And I found like through having that sacred pause, I was able to reflect on what I was doing in my life and make some changes. So then when I came into February, I sent out a few emails and a few messages, cancelled a few things that I was doing, changed my whole structure of life of what I had been doing to align more with what I really want to be doing. So from then, going through into the next spring and summer, my life was much more spacious and aligned with what it is I want to grow for me and for my family. So again, this year I'm doing the same. I'm taking some space in January to gather together myself, like feel the parts of me that are calling to grow, to be seen, to expand, and it's from there, that we can really kind of move into our truth, living our truth. But to live our truth, we first have to find it. We have to connect with that truth before we can start to live it. We have to feel it and believe it inside ourselves before we can actually start to get the momentum to live a life of our visions and our dreams. So this is really like the Sagittarian archetype for me. And one of the reasons that I wanted to reverse time back to today was to connect with Venus. So Venus right now, as I'm talking to you, is connected to Deneb Algedy, which is one of the Bohemian stars of the alchemists, right at the tail of Capricornus, the goatfish. So this is a beautiful energy. I mean, this isn't on the new moon. By the new moon, she's moved along a bit, but she's like right on this end of Capricorn coming into the Aquarian energy. And the thing that I love about Capricorn and Aquarius is like the Aquarius energy is like an arm, the arm that's reaching over and cuddling the goatfish in. It's like beckoning the goatfish to come back to source, back to the Holy Grail, back to the fountain of youth, And the Capricorn energy is the old wise goat. So I see Deneb Algedy as a particularly magical star, which, of course, it aligns to both the end of Capricorn, so the end of an old era, the end of an old life, and coming into Aquarius, coming into a new, original, awakened reality. So this, where Venus is today, is a real crossing over point. And I think there's a real alchemy here as well. This is like I shared before, like the energy of Capricornus feels to me like the wizard or Merlin. And then Aquarius is more like the Lady of the Lake, or those of you who know about the mysteries of Avalon and stuff. I live in Avalon, so it's lots of stories about the Lady of the Lake and Lady of Avalon and the Holy Grail and King Arthur. And so Capricornus, being the wise wizard Merlin, is the consort of Vivian, Lady of the Lake. So he is working for and in contract with the goddess, with the divine feminine, with the womb, with the cosmic grail energy. He is also advisor for Arthur, the king, the leader, which I connect to the Leo energy, which is obviously opposing the Aquarian energy. So this place in the sky where Venus is situated today is a very magical place for her to be. And, what I feel like this star really embodies is, of course, the magician and the magic and the wizardry and the alchemy, but it's also the achievement or the attainment of great wisdom through hard work, endurance, perseverance, not giving up. The end of Capricorn is like climbed up to the top of the mountain. It's like I did it. I got there. I achieved what I came here to achieve. So the wisdom of this star, this is why Merlin, this is why the old wizard is the advisor of the young king, because when we are returning to this wisdom as our informer, it's like Capricorn, Merlin is the voice of the goddess, is the voice of the source, the divine energy that's pouring through all of us. Yeah. So Venus here, I feel like it's really awakening our valuing and our relationship to the old, to the wisdom of the elders, to also being responsible for things, and when we're responsible for things, it helps us to grow and evolve. If we're dedicated to something over many, many years, and then we see like what we begin to sow from that dedication and that that is, what Capricorn is teaching us. So we know that Pluto is on this cusp of Capricorn as well. So, the Pluto energy is having a really powerful influence over this cycle. We've also got Ceres here as well. So Pluto, I'm going to zoom right in. It's all the way out there on the outskirts of our solar system. So yeah, so the Capricorn energy is having an influence, and the sun isn't in Capricorn yet. It will be during this cycle, but before we can get to work with Capricorn, we need to figure out what we want to blooming do, don't we? And that requires some dreaming, it requires some visioning and some honest conversations with ourselves, you know. And so those of you who are in the southern hemisphere, you're in the height of your summer, you might be wanting to explore the world, explore different countries, explore different places, different cultures, different religions, and you grow in a more outward way. So the Sagittarian energy also loves to explore different cultures and travel. So for those of us who are in the northern hemisphere, we're traveling more inwardly into our inner worlds. But those of you who are in the height of your summer, that doesn't really connect with where you're at right now in the time of the year. You are probably more social and out there and doing things. So we might find that we grow through, traveling and learning a different spiritual practice, maybe training in something new, like different philosophy, different yoga, or whatever it is. We may be drawn towards exploring different parts of ourselves through different cultures and practices and spiritualities. And that is also all, contained within this Sagittarian bubble. So, yes, is there anything else I wanted to share? We've got, obviously, Saturn is still in Aquarius. He will be moving into Pisces this year. And we've got Neptune, which is conjunct the North Node in Pisces. And yeah, Neptune and Saturn are going to be coming closer and closer together. Neptune is getting really closely aligned to the North Node as well. So that's going to be having a big influence this year. And we've got Uranus as well, who's still in Taurus for a long while. Jupiter's still in Taurus. And Mars is retrograde in Cancer. We'll be moving back into Gemini and then moving back forward again. So the Mars energy in opposition to Pluto, I'm going to go into the chart and talk more about that as well, because, this is having a really big impact on some of us, especially if we've got planets in Cancer or asteroids in Cancer or early Capricorn, where Pluto is right now. So, and also Mercury is in the galactic center as well. So there's a lot. So let's just move into the chart. So this is the chart for the new moon in Sagittarius. 30th of the 12th for 22-26. So wanting to talk about 13 degrees of Sagittarius, and we've got Pallas Athena here as well. So Venus, what I was sharing about as well, being at Deneb Algedy, by the time we get to the new moon, she's moved over from there. But I feel like there is still an influence of Deneb Algedy with Venus at this time. And so I have this feeling of like, with Pallas Athena being conjoined with the new moon, and also the Pallas Athena being connected to wisdom, integrity, justice. These are all aspects connected to Deneb Algedy as well. So I feel like there's a lot that's coming through this at the birth of this cycle, the new moon, that is connected to our sense of justice, to integrity, and to, yeah, a sense of wisdom, a really deep embodied wisdom. So Pallas Athena, she can be really great at strategizing things, very connected to law and order. And this is also, entwined with the Deneb Algedy frequency as well, where Venus is. Venus is in square to Uranus as well. So I was like, whoa, like this feels like some kind of reform of energy, you know, liberating from old structures, Capricorn, you know, and really like Uranus kind of breaking us out of these old forms and these old structures, maybe bringing a sense of challenge in that too, you know, like a test or something that's kind of, it's like we're feeling like with the square to Uranus are really breaking free of some of these old structures that have been holding us. And but with this, the birth of this new moon, you know, being connected to Pallas Athena as well, like there is like a need for real integrity and real wisdom before we, you know, break out of what's, you know, to do it with wisdom, you know, to really consider others, to consider, you know, the impact that we're having, you know, on ourselves and our lives before we do any kind of radical, reckless things, you know. So Uranus can bring this kind of recklessness and real kind of unexpected shifts, you know. So this also makes me feel around like unexpected shifts, you know, to do with our relationship to money, you know, our relationship to business, you know, Venus and Capricorn, you know, and how we uh, structure and organize things within our work. You know, so she's really, when she's in Capricorn here, she's right at the end, like I said, on this cusp between Capricorn and Aquarius. There's a need to create order in our work and our business. But then this square to Uranus is kind of, I guess that feels like a real frustrated energy for independence, you know, really wanting to put our own flag in, you know, to be our own leader, to be our own independent self. And so Venus in Capricorn really values stability within our work, within our finances, within our responsibilities, you know. So these two energies in this square could be bringing like a challenge of polarities, which, you know, I've been sharing that this cycle has a lot to do with polarities with the full moon that will be coming up in Gemini. So yeah, it's like trying to figure out our mind on and maybe find a best path forward, you know. So um I also wanted to share that. So the Mars opposite Pluto, this is the Mars retrograde in Cancer, and the Pluto at 1 degree of Capricorn. So this has been ongoing, as we know, but during this cycle, it's going to come into its peak around the 3rd of January, so just in early next year. And so this is going to be where our full moon is as well. You know, our full moon will be on this cusp here. So this, it feels like this Pluto and Mars energy is really coming to a head this cycle. And Pluto, the Sun will be joining with Pluto as well later on in this cycle, which happens every year. You know, there's definitely an energy of kind of volatility, temper, um, and like this kind of violent, dishonorable fighting energy, which, you know, we could be finding like we get drawn into conflict, and because there's a difference of opinion, or, you know, with the Sagittarian energy that, you know, we can think that we know it all or what we think is the right way. And so there's kind of like a conflict of interest or a conflict around what we believe in, you know. So this could be coming up all this cycle. And yeah, so we've got Neptune joined with the North Node as well. You can see uh, um, it's going to be coming very close together. Um, Maybe by the end of this cycle, let's see what it's on. It's still there. So it's Neptune is a slow moving planet, as we know. So, you know, this year he will be moving into conjunction with the North Node exactly. But, you know, it's close enough that it's having quite an impact. And Yes, I also wanted to share about um, Mercury, who is now moving forwards in a fucus and is in square to Saturn. Let me just rub out the old stuff so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so yeah, we've got Mercury in a fucus in square to Saturn, who's in Aquarius, who's in square to Jupiter in Taurus. So Jupiter is retrograde and is going back like a bull in the mud, churning through what's important and what we need resources for. And, I feel like this energy can also be quite gluttonous, quite greedy, wanting to, create financial abundance and security. Um, but can also be kind of self-absorbed as well and very kind of in it for themselves. Um, and the energy of Mercury, who's crossing over the galactic center, it feels like there's an energy of our mind and our voice and all our communications is being reborn. It's having a cosmic cleansing over the galactic center, but it is the black hole of our Milky Way galaxy. So communications, may be feeling a little bit strange, maybe, yeah, it is the dark void, so just to be aware of that. And this T square to Saturn, is really prominent this cycle. And so this could be bringing up things around money, abundance, resources, responsibilities and limitations, feeling restricted around money, feeling restricted around our self-worth. Maybe we kind of limit ourselves by not truly believing in ourselves, and Mercury here is like trying to create or find the healing or the medicine, the balm, the elixir from this tension between um, Jupiter and Saturn. So there may be a requirement of us to, have some conversations around restrictions, limitations, finances, and how through having those conversations, which may be difficult or challenging, around how much we're spending perhaps, or how maybe we're going too far, with Jupiter in um, Taurus, when we are or doing or spending too much, or maybe creating in a way that's not truly aligned with our destiny, what we're really wanting to as a soul move towards, So Jupiter in Taurus really wants to feel safe and secure financially in his castle with all of his things, so there's an energy of like, so Mercury over at the galactic center is like stripped bare. It's like, oh, none of that even matters. It's kind of really kind of saying, well, what's important? What is like how can we heal from that? Maybe there's like an energy of having to retrace back, because Jupiter is in trine to the South Node as well with Black Moon Lilith. Retrace back, to the past lives and the karma and the inheritance of the past that, is really influencing this energy, this need for safety, this need for security within, the physical, within our body, within our resources, within our home. Mars in Cancer retrograde, yes, lots coming up around security in our home, security, emotional well-being and security, feeling safe within our home. All things to be dreaming into for this seed of this cycle. Um, yeah, so there will be as well an energy of Mercury squaring Neptune coming. Um, I'll move into the first quarter moon for that. So as I've shared already, the first quarter moon will be in Pisces, conjoined with Chiron, and we know Eris, the dwarf planet Eris, is here as well, about to go direct. Chiron has just gone direct as well. So there's a forward momentum around healing, around the collective consciousness and well-being, that's really being called to our attention this cycle. And so, by the time we get to the first quarter moon, which is on the 6th, the sun is already still with Pallas Athena in square to the moon in Chiron here, and Ceres, not Ceres, Eris. um, but yes, so what I was going to share about was Mercury. Mercury is going to be in square to the North Node and Neptune. And so this can really bring a sense of confusion, of blurriness, of, not quite seeing clearly. Yeah, confusion around direction, because Mercury is at 1 degree of Sagittarius, so it is really kind of trying to make up its mind about something, trying to make up our mind around our direction, what direction we should be taking. And so in this square energy, especially with Mercury at the galactic center, it could definitely be bringing through a lot of stuff in our dreams, lots of psychic energy. We may be feeling very sensitive. We may get like ringing in our ears. All of these things may be coming up as well. Kind of an energy of having to take space, being our own energy to really take care of our own needs and our own well-being. And in saying that, we've got Ceres in trine to Jupiter as well. Ceres in Capricorn in trine to Jupiter. Oh, yes. And then we've got the South Node is still in trine to Uranus, in trine to Pluto. So lots of energy around self-improvement, self-care, change, changing of, our feelings around things. I feel like Ceres has got a real kind of want to take care. So Ceres, who's in trine to Jupiter, there's an abundance of self-care that we could do for our body, for our physical self. We may need to, like I shared at the beginning, take some space, really look at our inner temple, how we take care and nurture ourselves will be coming up really strong around the time of this first quarter moon, especially because it's connected to Chiron and Eris. So the energy is building this cycle towards this healing energy of Chiron and Eris. But I feel like Eris bringing like the hidden stuff up to the surface, the things that need to be said, things that need to be shared. It could be bringing up our wounds really strongly to be addressed. And with Mercury in square to Neptune, we could be feeling like we may be deluding ourselves. We may not be clear, with our communications. We've really got to watch what we say, basically, because we could be communicating from our own trauma, from our own triggers, and speaking from our wounds. Could be coming up a lot, I feel, around this first quarter, around the 6th. So just before Eris stations direct. So this is a really interesting one to be working with. And then we're going to come over to the full moon in Gemini. So yeah, we've got the full moon in Gemini, the 13th of January. And so Mars is just crossed back over on his retrograde into the cusp of Gemini. So literally just returned over the border within a few days of this full moon. So this is a really interesting energy. So Mars and the moon together can bring really like, wow, just really heated emotions, really kind of volatile or eruptive emotions. So our emotional energy like our inner world and our feelings is really being um, poked or awakened by Mars. So we may see sudden outbursts of emotions and tears and things coming up to the surface that have been, beneath. And so the sun is coming closer and closer towards Pluto as well. So we've got this opposition to Pluto, which is still really, really active. Um, and the sun is in trine to Uranus as well. So this kind of feels like there's kind of a really unexpected twist, kind of this is a very inventive energy, but that things could be quite unexpected, especially with the south node involved as well in trine. So this is a grand trine still here. So expect the unexpected. I think this full moon, it feels like it has the potential to be um, quite intense. There could be a lot of strangeness and unpredictability in things. And yeah, we've got this T square to Chiron and Eris as well. Just gonna yeah, so you've got Chiron is with Eris. I haven't got Eris in my chart, but Eris is here with Chiron. And so there's this T square to the moon and Mars, and then Pluto and the sun. So yeah, very intense, really like, but coming back to the seedness of the seed of the cycle at the new moon and really connecting to that inner vision and that inner truth. I feel like as well, this could be testing the boundaries, testing our what we believe. And so with Mars and the moon in Gemini could be bringing up a lot of differences in opinion, kind of arguments and eruptiveness around what we believe in. We could be getting very passionate about our feelings around things. Like we would like it to be this way, or we feel like it's this way, and then someone else might say it's that way, or this conflict may be inside of ourselves as well, like we can't seem to make a decision around, how we feel about something. So this is really testing our beliefs at a really core level to help us expand and to help us heal with Chiron and Eris. So I feel like there could be disputes and tempers flying all over the place. And, with this T square to Eris, kind of an element of discord and secrets and things that need to be revealed coming up to the surface to be worked with and journeyed with. Is there anything else I wanted to share? So yeah, I shared already around the trine to Uranus with the sun and this kind of energy of the south node. So that feels like it needs a little bit more care to it. So I've already shared like more in the beginning of this video around the need to invent ourselves anew. This is about a shift, a pole shift. We're shifting our direction, and this is connected to our sense of self. So the South Node, our inheritance of the past and all that we've already done and all of our baggage, it's kind of like there's a energy of this trine, which is, I feel like there's an energy of this sense of self that comes from the past or from our ancestors, or our bloodline, our sense of who we are and and how we act and how our life unfolds has really got this connection to our ancestral self and our past lives. So with Uranus involved in this picture, I feel like it's kind of helping us to see those old patterns and those old cycles and to break out of them, to move through them, to find a new sense of direction and a new sense of self, which is more in alignment with our dreams and our North Node. So at the time of this full moon as well, Venus will be with Saturn in Aquarius. So You know, it's kind of like really great time to be creative with our work, creative with our resources and money, and like there may be more of a focus, you know, around our work and our responsibilities and really valuing, you know, how we can um, work for the collective as well, and how we are more in alignment with our soul and our mission. And so with there's a grand trine with Juno in Libra, and ooh, it's getting a bit confusing now. I've got too much yellow. Let's start again. Okay. Right, so yes, Juno is in Libra, and this is in a grand trine as well to the full moon and the North Node. So this kind of also brings an energy of like finding balance within our marriages and our commitments, um, and our relationships of all kinds, you know, and really nurturing and tending to those relationships. I feel like to create more balance and more harmony, you know, we need to, with this energy of the Juno and Libra in this trine to the moon and the Mars energy in Gemini, is maybe consider other people's perspectives, consider different ways of doing things. And this is, you know, with Neptune and the North Node, this is really in alignment with our dreams, you know. And so there may be, you know, because Juno is in sextile to Mercury, conversation, excuse me, conversation that needs to happen, you know, around, or just like thinking about others, you know, thinking about other people's feelings and considering others' needs as well as our own. And in doing that, I feel like this is going to really help this grand trine to awaken. And yes, because we've got Chiron in Pisces as well, also bring a sense of healing from looking at the differences in opinion and trying to find balance and equilibrium through these perhaps difficult conversations around seeing different points of views. I feel like we need to have a commitment to that too, you know, because Juno isn't has an element of commitment in what she's sharing and what she's doing. She's very committed to her relationships and her marriage to Jupiter. So yeah, right, let's go to the last quarter moon. Last quarter moon in Virgo on the 21st, conjoined with Vesta. So this is a very passionate energy of the waning away of the moon. So we may be feeling around this time that we're feeling quite passionate. Might be feeling we may have moved through a lot at the full moon with all of that stuff coming up to the surface. And this is a real time to come back into our devotion to service, to really connect with, you know, our well-being and our healing, you know, of ourself, of our, you know, we may be finding around this time of the last quarter moon, we may be connecting to medicine and herbs and like the Virgo energy, like getting the details in order. Um, but there is at this time, woo, this T square. So we've got Mars in Gemini in square to the moon in Vesta, who's in square to Chiron and Eris, who's in square to Mercury and Pallas. And at this point as well, the sun is with Pluto. So this is a grand cross aspect. So this could bring lots of feelings of intensity, of challenge. So yeah, I wish I could say that the end of this cycle will be easier, but I'm not too sure about that either. This cycle is going to work us very deeply, I feel, and it's going to test us, to really look at what's hidden, to look at what needs to be revealed, to look at how we polarize things, and so the sun will be in Capricorn by this point, so I'm hoping by this point, when we get to the end of this cycle, we will be ready to actively work towards our new vision. And, that's going to be bringing a lot up to the surface as well with this Grand Cross aspect. But I feel like with the moon and Vesta together, there's like an inner fire or an inner flame that's been ignited through this journey that has given us this sense of truth, this sense of knowing inside that what the path is and what we are here to do. And it's still like this challenge with Mercury. Mercury is with Pallas. And now I'm coughing. Mercury is with Pallas. So yes, I'm going to stop sharing about that now and try and stop coughing. Obviously, there's some things coming through around my voice this cycle. Hey, and the new moon will be in Capricorn on the 29th of the first. Goodness me, I didn't know I was going to be coughing then. I haven't even had a cough. Here we go. New moon feels. Hey. So the end of January, we'll have our new moon in Capricorn. So I was going to highlight all of this. So we've got, the sun and the moon at 9 degrees of Capricorn for that nice new moon, which will be in trine to Jupiter, which is quite nice, isn't it? So I'll talk about that another time. I'll try and stop coughing. But yeah, what a big cycle we've got ahead of us, huh? It feels like, lots of change. Shifting consciousness, shifting power, shifting the pole, the North Pole. Yeah, big, big changes coming this year. So, yeah, good luck on this inner quest, this search for truth, and this visioning through January to find, what it is we really truly want to grow and build in this world. And by the end of this cycle, as we're coming into the last quarter, we will, as the sun moves into Capricorn, hopefully be able to start moving into what it is that we want to build from a really authentic and integral place. All right, my loves. Well, new moon blessings. And I'll see you on the other side of this cycle. Mwah! So much love.